Hey everybody, welcome to the videos. I'm breaking down the Monday Night Football Showdown slate for tonight on DraftKings. We have the Chargers facing off versus the Raiders in an AFC West showdown. This game should be pretty fun. We have a 51.5 point over-under, 3.5 point spread. A lot of exciting players in this game. Darren Waller, Derek Carr, Justin Herbert, Mike Williams, who's been on fire this season, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler. So definitely excited to break this one down. And if you do find this video helpful in any way possible, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet already. If you want to take that one step further, become a fish member over on Patreon. Link is down below in the description for that. If you want access to the entire spreadsheet, projections, ownership projections, optimizer, cheat sheets, Discord community, all that fun stuff, link can be found down below. And last but not least, this video is sponsored by PrizePicks. I'm sure most of you know this by now, but if you don't, it's daily fantasy sports simplified, just you versus the projections. There's no sharks, 150 max contests, or salary cap restrictions or anything like that. Just you versus the props they offer each and every single day. And as of right now, if you're new signing over on PrizePicks, you get a free money bonus. That's an instant deposit match up to $100, so it's free money. When I use it to your advantage, when you use code CPEN and tell them I sent you. I think that'll be it for the plugs for the most part. So without further ado, let's dive into today's video. And as always, we'll start with the quarterback position. Both these guys have been great this year, but we'll start up top with the Chargers quarterback, Justin Herbert, $11,200, and he's been very good so far to start his second year. Was awesome as a rookie, has been very good so far. He's got great weapons to get the ball to, and Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler out of the backfield, Jared Cook, and some other guys are viable as well, but definitely like the Chargers here, and if I had to pick between the two, I am going to go with Herbert over Derek Carr just because I like the Charger stacks a little bit more, but both guys are going to be fantastic options. If you don't play both in the flex spot and cash games, I totally get it. My projections keep Jimmy and Justin Herbert in the captain spot, and typically, I always say this every video, but in case you're new here, I don't typically like to roster quarterbacks in the captain spot unless they offer us a lot of rushing upside like Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, which I know he hasn't been running a ton this year, but Lamar Jackson specifically is who I'm talking about. Because you only see these guys often around 5 to 10% of the time in Showdown. And meanwhile, the rest of the time, it's usually running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. So I'm going to prefer a pass-catching option here, but these guys are obviously fine plays overall. And projection-wise, are the best plays in the entire slate. Although I feel like I'm just going to roster them in the flex spot just to save me some money and get one of those skill position players that have super high ceilings in the captain spot on today's slate. But we're looking at Justin Herbert's numbers on the season, over 300 passing yards per game, 2 passing touchdowns, throwing the ball nearly 40 times per game. And the Raiders so far this season, they're allowing the 10th fewest points per game, but they haven't exactly had the toughest quarterback schedule so far. Lamar Jackson, yes, he can kill it on the ground, but they've also played Jacoby Brissett and Ben Roethlisberger, so I'm going to assume that number is going to get worse as the season progresses. And obviously a matchup here versus the high-flying Chargers offense is definitely going to be a tough test for this defense, but Herbert, obviously, yeah, I like him. It's just a matter of if you want to captain him or not. I am leaning towards the flex, although I will say my optimizer is really Jimmy and Herbert in the captain spot at tonight's slate. So I wouldn't hate going that route, but I would probably limit it in my lineups and get more exposure to the pass catching options. Then Derek Carr, $10,800. He's been amazing in his own right, averaging over 400 passing yards per game, which is insane. He's been great down the field so far this year, one of the best down the field throwers, 8.8 yards per attempt, 41 pass attempts per game. They do have the lower implied team total here with 3.5 point spread, so it's not like I'm expecting a blowout or anything. It should be a very back and forth game, and I think it's going to be a very good game, not just for fantasy purposes, but just as an NFL fan, it should be just a fun game to watch. And while I wouldn't say Carr has the weapons that Justin Herbert has, he has one of the best tight ends in football in Darren Waller, who's basically a wide receiver out there. And Henry Ruggs has been a great deep threat this year, and Hunter Renfrow is not that bad either. So both these guys, excellent plays, although probably more reserved for the flex spots, although I am tempted with Justin Herbert. So then moving on to our lineup here, like I said, I like both quarterbacks a lot, but if I had to pick one, I'm going to go with Justin Herbert over Derek Carr here. Although both are fine options. If you can play both, great. Although it doesn't leave us too much salary remaining. And I really like a lot of these skill position players on this site that are a little bit cheaper. So if we can fit in Derek Carr, great. But as for right now, I'm just going to leave in Justin Herbert and move on to running backs. And we'll start with the Chargers running back group here, which consists of Austin Eckler, $9,600, Larry Roundtree III at $1,000. And then the bare minimum at $200, we have Justin Jackson. In terms of snap counts last week, we saw Austin Eckler around 75%, Larry Roundtree at 17%, and then Justin Jackson just above 10% at 11%. So these guys all have roles, but obviously some roles are bigger than others, and Austin Eckler is going to be the main guy here. Now, if we're looking at the touch distribution through 3 weeks this season, Austin Eckler is seeing close to 12 rushing attempts per game on 5 targets, which equates to a 12% target share, which that number is going to rise as the season progresses because in week 1 he had no targets, which is kind of dragging him down a 3-game sample size right now, but he had 9 targets in week 2. Like, he's going to be just fine. He's going to be an elite pass catching running back all season long. Larry Roundtree is seeing just over 4 rushing attempts per game and about half a target. And Justin Jackson just over 2 rushing attempts and about half a target as well. So obviously Austin Eckler is the guy here. He's one of my top projected plays in the entire slate. I have a really hard time not playing him a lot on this slate. I think you can put him in the captain spot. But he's obviously fine in the flex, and he doesn't even correlate poorly with our quarterback, because typically quarterback running back doesn't correlate well, but when you have a guy like Austin Eckler who can catch a bunch of passes, he correlates just fine with Justin Herbert in our lineups. Larry Roundtree should see a handful of touches, but I mean, it's fine at $1,000 if you need the savings. Then Justin Jackson at the bare minimum of $200 if he gets a catch or two somehow. I mean, he should see like a target, hopefully, and then get a couple carries in the ground. If he finds the end zone, he'll be one of the best spot plays in the entire slate at $200. But it's kind of hard to count on the volume there. But at $200, it does open up a lot of things up top if you need the extra savings with him. Although I'm not super confident in that. Then moving on to the Raiders group here, it's basically going to be a two-man show if Josh Jacobs happens to be out. It'll be Peyton Barber, who played around 60% of the snaps last week, and Kenyon Drake right around 50%. Peyton Barber was very busy, kind of slid right to that Josh Jacobs role. Had 26 carries on the ground, had like 3 or 4 targets. I know he had 3 catches. Had over 26 fantasy points, over 100 rushing yards. It was a good matchup on the ground versus Miami. This is another very good matchup on the ground versus the Chargers, who are currently 31st DVA versus the run, allowing over 20 DraftKings points per game and 103 rushing yards, and 24th versus the position in terms of fantasy points allowed per game. So if Josh Jacobs happens to be out, I don't think Peyton Barber is a bad play, especially if he's going to get close to 30 total touches. Not sure that'll be the case because I imagine they will be trailing this game. It's only a 3.5 point spread, so it shouldn't be a blowout or anything. I think they can still establish the run. This is a good spot to do it versus the Chargers and keep the ball out of Justin Herbert's hands. As for now, it's completely a wait-and-see approach because if Josh Jacobs is in, there's no chance I'm playing Peyton Barber. But if he is out, I will have some interest there. Kenyon Drake, he'll be the main pass catcher running back here. He's $1,400 cheaper than Peyton Barber. He has 17 targets through 3 weeks with a 13% target share, averaging close to 50 receiving yards per game. So if you're going with the game script that the Chargers are just kind of boat racing the Raiders and they throw the ball a lot, Kenyon Drake would definitely be playable. He's also playable even if the game is close. We've seen that all season long. As for right now, I'm going to take a wait-and-see approach on the Raiders because I have no idea who's in, who's out. They're putting Josh Jacobs through the gauntlet. I believe that's what John Gruden said before the game started. So we're not going to really know anything until like an hour and a half before the game starts when we get the inactive report, which kind of sucks. And then moving on to our lineup. As for right now, I'm just going to plug in Austin Eckler because I don't know what's going to happen with the Raiders. Josh Jacobs is very questionable. I'm going to assume he's out for this game, which would obviously be a massive bump for Peyton Barber. But as of right now, I have no idea, so I'm not going to guess. And then moving on to wide receivers, we'll start with the Chargers group here, which consists of Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, and Jalen Guyton. You also have Joshua Palmer and KJ Hill in the mix, although KJ Hill has not really played whatsoever the past 2 weeks. He played 7 offensive snaps in week 1, caught 3 passes, but ever since then, he has been a complete no-show. So I'd say it's probably safe to say you can cross him up the list. But in terms of snap counts, Mike Williams just a little over 70 last week, Keenan Allen just over 80, Jalen Guyton just over 60, and Joshua Palmer got in around 15% of the time. So basically, it's a 3-man show here between Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, and Jalen Guyton. If I had to pick my favorite here, I think Keenan Allen's just a little bit underpriced. Like Mike Williams has been awesome this year. He's getting all the touchdowns, but their numbers are actually quite similar besides the touchdowns. I really don't think Keenan Allen deserves to be over $1,000 cheaper than Mike Williams. If you're playing cash games, I would just take the value we can get with Keenan Allen here. Williams, obviously an excellent play. I have nothing bad to say about him, but their numbers are really not that far off. And Keenan Allen actually owns the higher target share in the season, higher weighted opportunity share. And despite what most people probably think, because Mike Williams can be a big play guy, the market share of their air yards this season are only 1% off of each other, and their ADOT's only 1 yard difference as well. So in my opinion, I'm having a very hard time not playing Keenan Allen over Mike Williams on this site, especially in cash games, because I'll just take the discount there of over $1,000. Then Jalen Guyton, Palmer, KJ Hill. Hill played 1 snap last week, and it was on special teams. Joshua Palmer might get a couple targets if we're lucky. I mean, point dollar-wise, he'll look good just because he's only a few $100, but it's really hard to count the volume. But Guyton's a guy that he's probably going to get a target or two. He's going to be on the field a lot, and he can burn the defense deep. He runs a lot of deep routes. So if you're looking for that home run hitter at a very cheap price point, Guyton will be on the field for you, so I don't think he's the worst play out there. Then moving on to the Raiders here, this group consists of Henry Ruggs, Hunter Renfrow, Bryan Edwards, Zay Jones, and I guess Willie Snead, although the snap share is very low for him. Henry Ruggs put on close to 60% of the snaps last week, Hunter Renfrow just over half, Bryan Edwards close to 80, so we saw the most, and then Zay Jones very close to 30. If we're looking at their target distribution this year, Henry Ruggs 6 targets per game with a 14.7% target share, Hunter Renfrow 7 targets, 17% target share, Bryan Edwards 10% target share, and Zay Jones only a 2% target shares. So for the most part, it's pretty much the Bryan Edwards, Renfrow, and Henry Ruggs show. Henry Ruggs is going to be that deep threat, although Bryan Edwards is pretty close to him in terms of his ADOT, 16.3 for Ruggs, 15.8 for Edwards, although Henry Ruggs has only a 24.7% market share of the team's air yards this season. Hunter Renfrow is your safe possession wide receiver. Like if you're just looking for safe points on the slate, Hunter Renfrow is the guy for that. He's going to get peppered with targets, over 5 catches per game, nearly 70 receiving yards, and his ADOT's only 8.2. And plus, I will mention the Chargers are really not giving up that many big plays this year, which kind of goes against guys like Ruggs and Bryan Edwards. So Hunter Renfrow might actually be the best play of this group here. And then guys like Zay Jones and Willie Snead are viable if you need punt options, although Willie Snead played a very low amount of snaps last week, so I'd really try to get up to Zay Jones if you can. And moving on to our lineup here, we now have a lot of options to consider playing. Although I think I want to get my captain in, and I just think Keenan Allen's underpriced. Like, yes, I know Mike Williams has been the big guy this year, but Keenan Allen's not too far behind. He's just lacking in the touchdown department, which I could see happening for the rest of the season because Mike Williams is he's a big guy. Like, he can definitely body it up in the end zone. Keenan Allen not quite as big, but I mean, only $800, 13,200 in the captain spot looks a lot better than 15,300 for Mike Williams. And I'm not saying I don't like Mike Williams. I do like Mike Williams today. It's just in a cash game bill, I'm trying to get as much point per dollar value that I can and still get high ceilings and decent floors. And Keenan Allen profile is like the exact player I'd want there. So we're going to plug him in. That leaves us $5,300 per player, which we can definitely make worth. I think there's a lot of good options to pick from. And moving on to tight end, typically a boring position to talk about, but not when you have Darren Waller on the slate because he is going to be one of the top overall options. And I have a hard time not playing him. I know the Chargers defense hasn't exactly been leaky so far this season. They are 27 versus tight ends, although I think you got to factor in the fact that they played Travis Kelce so far this year. And anytime you play Travis Kelce and only a 3-game sample size, yeah, you're probably going to look like one of the worst teams in the league versus tight ends this year. But Darren Waller, he's not Travis Kelce, but he's definitely in that upper echelon tier of tight ends. He's averaging over 10 targets per game, 58% weight opportunity share, and near 28% market share of the team's air yards, and that's really good as a tight end. So yeah, I love Darren Waller. I don't think that needs to be said, but definitely the top pass catching option for the Raiders, and he feels like a tough fade in cash games. He's one of the reasons why I'm not sure if I can get to Derek Carr, because like I love Derek Carr. It's just I feel like I'd rather play Darren Waller over Carr in cash games because you can save some money, and I feel like we're going to get a similar projection out. But like my projections don't have him too far off. I have Derek Carr a little bit higher because he's a quarterback, but you got to keep in mind he's over $1,000 more expensive. So as of right now, I'm leaning Darren Waller if I can't afford both. And then as for the Chargers, we basically have Jared Cook and Donald Parham here. Jared Cook saw 70% of the snaps last week. Parham close to 50, although he's not really getting much in the passing game whatsoever this season. Not even a target per game and only a 1.65% target share. Jared Cook has definitely been the tight end to own in this offense. Close to 40 receiving yards per game, over 5 targets, a 13% target share, and a 14% market share of the team's air yards. Cook is a fine play today. He's not an exciting play, but if he finds the end zone, you'll be pretty happy at $4,400. And then I guess I should at least mention Foster Moreau here. He's $1,400. He does see over a target per game. He has caught a touchdown this season as well, but we're dealing with under a 4% target share. It's really hard to roster him when you already have Darren Waller. You might get lucky with a goal line touchdown of Foster Moreau and like a bootleg or something. And as for defenses and kickers, you guys usually know my stance on them. I don't want to play a defense in a game that features over a 50-point over-under. I just don't see it really being optimal unless they score a touchdown. And I'm not really one that wants to bank on a touchdown from a defense on this slate, so probably going to be a pass for me, although they are both cheap, but I think that's for a good reason. Then as for the kickers, they are what they are. If they hit their field goals, they hit their field goals and they become decent value plays, but if not, you'll be pretty disappointed. And I could see a lot of touchdowns being scored in this game, and they just have so low ceilings that their floors are decently high. Like I always have them projected for like around 6 to 8 points, but their ceilings are just so low because they can't run the ball, throw the ball, or catch the ball, and they can't score touchdowns. Like Jalen Guyton, yes, he's a little bit riskier, but he also has potential to score over 20 DraftKings points. We're not going to see that from a kicker, so that's why I have a hard time rostering them. In cash games, I'm more willing to play them just because there's almost guaranteed points there. But in tournaments, it's just I don't really want to play too many kickers. All right, so moving back to this lineup here, let's just try to finish it off. We have about $5,300 left per player. I want to get Darren Waller in. I think there's enough value plays to be able to fit him in. So we kind of got the 4 studs with Keenan Allen, Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, and Darren Waller. I mean, obviously can't fit in Derek Carr because we only have $6,100 left total, which is nearly half the price of Derek Carr. So he's out of the question. Probably have to find some dirt cheap options here, and it just really depends on what you want to go. If you want to go with a pure pump play, you could throw in Hunter Renfrow, then you have $1,000 left, which there's a couple guys down here like Larry Roundtree. You're just missing out on Parham. You have Justin Jackson, who should see a few snaps. Maybe get lucky with a few touches. You have Joshua Palmer, who played on 50% of the snaps last week. But if you want to get a little bit more balanced, we could probably throw in Jared Cook at only $4,400. That would save us some money. And there's guaranteed targets here. Like, he's going to be involved in this game. He had 3 targets last week, 5 the week prior, then 8 in week 1, 10, 5, 4 points. Only $4,400. I don't think that's bad. He does correlate well with our Justin Herbert. Then we'd have $2,400 left remaining, which does leave us a couple options like Jalen Guyton, like Zay Jones. Guyton played on nearly 65% of the snaps last week. Zay Jones close to 30. Although since we have Justin Herbert in this lineup, it probably makes more sense to get some pass catching options. While the targets are low, the upside is definitely there for a big play, and I don't think that's bad on a showdown slate. So this lineup does not look too bad. You have Allen in the captain spot, Herbert, Eckler, you have Darren Waller as your one run back option from the Raiders. You have Jared Cook, you have Jalen Guyton. But there's many ways to go. If you want a Derek Carr lineup here, because you just want both quarterbacks in, it's going to be a little bit tougher to do because you only have $2,600 left per player. But you could still probably just throw in Guyton, and then you could just throw in Zay Jones to get that correlation with Derek Carr because you're going to want a pass catching option with Carr. if you happen to run them. Or like I said, many ways to go on the slate, and this should definitely be a very fun game. And if you did find this video helpful in any way possible, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you want to take that one step further, become an official member over on Patreon. Link is down below in the description for that. Cheat sheets, spreadsheets, projections, all the data you'd ever need, color coordination, so it's very easy to follow in my Discord community. We got a couple hundred people over there. More than happy to have you. And don't forget, this video was sponsored by Prize Picks, just you versus the projections. And as of right now, if you're new signing over there, you get a free money bonus up to $100 when you use code CPEN and tell them I sent you. I think that'll be pretty much it. I'll stop rambling. I'll see you guys in the next video.